Hello and welcome to Soul Nectar Show, that show that talks about all things essence, where we sit around the campfire with each other and talk about our life's journeys and those really big moments that we had that woke us up to another whole profound way of navigating this thing we call life. And it's meant to really inspire you to, in your own life journey, to see things from a new lens that would support you in living with more joy, more love, more prosperity, more guidance, and to feel like, hey, this is a really pretty cool opportunity to be here on earth and have this experience. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and I love helping people take those first few steps out onto their path and to learn a whole new way of navigating life by walking the beauty way. And that's an indigenous path of really honoring all the earth and her consciousness and the elements and all the guides that we have, our ancestors, and everybody that's really here to support us when we feel like we're totally alone and we don't have anybody else. We have so much support. And so I love to help open people to that realization. And today I'm really excited. I always have these wonderful friends, and a lot of my friends are, linked through just a dynamic group of thought leaders from the Evolutionary Business Council. And today I'm really excited because I have my friends, Tamara Green and David Dachinger. Welcome, you guys.
Hi, Carrie. Thanks for having us.
Yes, we're so excited to be here.
I'm so excited. Okay, so Tamara and David, they actually have a company called Loving Meditations, and they created this company for a really important reason, and we're going to get into that story in just a minute. But they are Grammy nominated. David is a Grammy nominated engineer and composer, a professional firefighter. Did you know I lead firewalks, David?
I did not know that.
I do. I start fires.
We got
Controlled fires. So, and Tamara is his loving wife, and she's a world-class relationship expert, a caregiver, support leader, a hypnotherapist, and a movement guru. And I've experienced some of her movement stuff, and it's like pretty helpful. It's really encouraging, and it loosens up all your energy, which is really awesome. So in addition to this loving meditations that they do, they really, through this company, they radically enhance the lives of thousands of people. And you're going to find out just how they do that and why they do that through this story they're going to share with you now. I didn't want to ruin the story, and I want to tell it myself. So can you guys share with us like your experience, David and Tamara, of your experience as well, of what David went through and how you guys pulled together to create this dynamic duo purpose that's really serving thousands of people? Help us to understand.
Definitely. Well, this is a case of where some things you do in life may not make total sense why you're doing them until something big happens and everything sort of comes together and your purpose and your mission and your passion become much more clear. So you could ask, what do a firefighter, musician, and a social worker have in common that they could actually create a business, right? And so we wouldn't have known that until this one day in October when I went to get my hair cut. And the barber, just making sure my hair is even and symmetrical. And he said, "What's that lump on your neck?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I looked in the mirror. There was a walnut-sized lump on the left side of my neck. And so I'm like, well, it's got to be a pulled muscle or something. Fast forward. Had to go to the doctor, get it checked out, and we were standing there after numerous tests and diagnostics, and the doctor came in and said, "You have stage 4 cancer." I didn't even hear those words. I heard the cancer. I didn't hear the stage 4. But we went kind of numb, chaotic, just like, what just happened?
Yeah, I mean, I got fear when you said that. Like, I went into this space of like, oh no,
Yeah, and I was the poster boy for, good health, working out, all this stuff.
Firefighter.
Yeah, and I like to, that was my image. That was my identity. So that identity was instantly gone, and all of a sudden now I'm a cancer patient. So really took a while to embrace the new identity and what's possible within this identity. Like, I've never been a sick person before. I've never had to have someone take care of me. I've never had to stop working and stop exercising and basically put my life on hold so I could heal. And so part of that healing was, okay, I chose to put it all into the hands of the doctors and go with the traditional route with chemo, radiation, and ultimately surgery, but also let me use anything and everything I know and that people are suggesting that can get me through this with more ease, to let my body be as resilient as it can, and to to find the gift in it. So that's kind of where we headed.
And I soon realized that I was on my own journey as a caregiver. It's an interesting thing. The focus is really on the patient with the cancer and how's the patient doing. But meanwhile, as a caregiver, you're really going through your own stuff. Stuff is coming up to the surface, a lot of fear, a lot of worry, a lot of sleepless nights. And for me, with David, since we had already had a meditation practice, in fact, we even had a YouTube channel for about 7 years. 7 years, I would do a guided meditation every week. David would take it and compose beautiful music, and then we'd put it on our YouTube channel. It's called Miracle Mondays Meditation. So we'd been doing that. Then the diagnosis of cancer, and all of that went out the window for about 2 weeks because we're, in adjustment mode, sort of freaking out like, what do we do? Immediately they're like, don't waste any time. You need treatment now. This thing is growing, as we speak, kind of thing. And I also want to add that, I did quite a bit of search. We've always been like, into essential oils and vitamins and, not really big on medication and that kind of stuff. But there was something, even though I had done research on alternative methods for cancer treatment, David was pretty clear that he thought he should go the traditional route. And I'm telling you that because it kind of comes full circle in terms of why we needed to go that route, because it has to do now with the people that we're actually speaking to. The audience that we actually speak to are those people kind of going through the more traditional route. It doesn't have to be traditional route. But so anyway, I realized, oh my gosh, if a client went to me and said, Tamara, my husband just got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I'm freaking out. I'm not sleeping and I'm in fear and worry. What should I do? I suddenly realized I need to take my own advice here and, get back on board with my daily practice of meditation and mindfulness and gratitude and yoga and all of that. And David was right with me on that. So that's what really turned things around. And it was really in those moments where we even talked about how are we going to turn all of this into a beautiful opportunity for personal growth and for self-discovery. And that's what it started turning into for us at that moment.
I love that so much because it really, I haven't had anything like that happen in my life, but I've had other kinds of things happen that felt like huge obstacles or felt like really painful or beyond what I thought I could handle or tolerate inside of me. And I initially wanted to be a victim to it, like be really upset about it and really like angry and blame, like shake my fist at God and be like, what the heck, I've been living the way I was supposed to live and how could you dare? And in my experience of those moments with myself, once I kind of woke up, not earlier in my life, but in the last few years, my experience of those kinds of moments has been that I've realized that those were actually opportunities for me to like flex my self-mastery muscle, like to apply all the things that I'd been learning and teaching to other people and clients, it was my opportunity to dig really deep inside of me and apply those same practices that I was telling other people to apply in their lives to like really master it within myself. And it's what I hear you guys saying, that this was for you also, like a recognition that this was a deepening of your spiritual path.
Definitely. And sometimes it's a unique opportunity when you're at the bottom, right? When you've kind of like hit a low point and really there's nowhere to go but up. And there's total opportunity to hit the reset switch and like, okay, what can I do different from here forward? What can I discard that I've been doing that wasn't working, that got me there into this situation? What else is out there that I could open up to, learn about? And, in my case, I already had some experience and history with meditation, but Tamara brought some new tools into the relationship at that point. Like we did gratitude walks. And that was a huge transformer to get out of the victim negative viewpoint into just simple statements about what we're grateful for rather than what's wrong with life. Total, game changer. And simple tools like that we used were, on a daily basis, I think I made a big difference in how I felt about going through this. I mean, physically and mentally, it was no fun. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. The side effects that from the radiation that I had were brutal because it's pretty much head, neck, tongue, mouth. However, this is like, to me, it was the epic opportunity, survival adventure. How can I look at this not as a suffering experience, but one of like, let me dig deep and see what's in there, and let me see what got me here and where I'm going to go from this point forward.
I love that you said that because I don't have pain in my body. Okay. Like I experience emotional pain more than that. Like mental emotional pain is kind of like my thing that I work with. I don't work with like physical. Yeah. Hopefully I won't have to, but you never know. So I'm putting the caveat out there. Please no.
Do you hear that, God?
Please no, God. Please no. But I've had like emotional and mental struggle with that, like gaining mastery over my mental and emotional cycles. And what I noticed for myself is that even this morning, I'm going through some things in my life. And this morning I woke up with that negative space. Like I woke up with fear. I woke up with, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's this person going to do next? Like, oh, I'm going to be attacked or, and I was having all this fear. And my mind was starting to go down that track, it's starting to go down that tunnel of like imagining all the things this person could do, to make it worse in my life. Right. And so in your case, I would equate that to cancer. Like, oh, well, what other things could it do to me, to make my life worse? And we could go down that track. And then I pulled out of it and I went, wait a second. There's probably something supportive I could do for myself. And so I went outside and I grounded. I sat on my front lawn, which is where I pray, which is my neighbors probably think I'm really weird, but I go out there and I pray. And I sat on the lawn and I opened a sacred space and I just kind of listened and opened. And then I realized I had just received these new healing songs, these new Icaros. And so I was like, I'm going to practice the new Icaro. And so I started listening to the recording of it and singing it and looking at the words and I just started singing it over and over and over again. And I realized, wait a second, like this is a healing Icaro. This is what this does. It heals. I'm practicing a healing Icaro with my own voice. I'm singing this. I'm giving myself healing right now. And then I felt better. Like I started feeling better and better and better. So I wanted to share that because I thought it was pertinent at this moment, like to just kind of try to empathize with what you went through and the transformation you also had to go through in yourself.
Yeah. We becoming very clear after our experience that the difference between pain and suffering is really the stories and the judgment we're having about the pain. So pain is just pain. It's just part of life, right? But the suffering is all the stories, that the meaning. Oh, I have this pain, therefore it means blah, 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 blah. That's the part that really creates the stress, is the suffering. It's really not the pain. Maybe that's 10% of the stress that you're feeling, but 90% is the story. And that comes from suffering. I mean, or maybe the other way around. The story creates the suffering, and that's 90% of the stress right there.
Yeah, and our minds are so creative. At least I can speak to mine. It's very creative. It can create a lot of stories. So did you face that, David? Did you like face your mind and all the stories it wanted to meanings it wanted to make about this ache or that ache, or as you were going through your healing process?
It carries forward beyond that, because as a cancer survivor, now that, I've had this, and I'm sure other cancer survivors can relate, start to get a weird, feeling somewhere, like, especially for me in my head and neck area. I'm like, oh my God, is this like something else going on? And so, yeah, I have to like recognize that I'm having that mental chatter, and to get out of the story and to just be like, okay, be, let's be in the moment, and what problem do I have right now, and is there something that needs to be handled or fixed? As soon as I realize, I'm cool right now, that's grounding in itself. And I think when we look at when we're able to start looking at the suffering and looking at the pain, and we can be grateful for what it's showing us, that it's even bringing us that awareness that we are projecting, or we are making a story around the pain that's beyond the actual pain, and we become grateful for that, then we start to heal.
Tamara, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
I was thinking about what we probably heard at the same time, Carrie, at the Evolutionary Business Council retreat. It was that, and I am willing to experience it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Joel
Young.
Joel
Young.
Young and
Yeah,
his
Joel Young and his NP
Non-personal awareness. Yeah.
awareness practice. Oh my God, it's such a good practice.
And so just by saying, you know what, my body hurts, or I do feel this emotional pain, but I am willing to experience it. It takes out the story instantly. And you're just there with it, which then it's so fascinating, because I actually did this a week and a half ago with a migraine, and I kept repeating, yep, head hurts and I am willing to experience it. And I just kept saying it over and over, and it really reduced the pain, because the story was gone. Because for many times in my life, it's like, oh, I wonder how long it's going to last. How much am I going to have to take medication for this? Oh, I hate taking the medication for this. And it upsets my stomach,
Yeah,
I
the
would go
story
down.
about, yeah.
Right. If this and then that, whatever. And I just stayed in the present moment, and the pain just started it was very bearable. It really was.
I have a question for you, Tamara, because I know you do this work, visualizations and things like that. And my question is this, for both of you really, is one of the things I have people do when they're, this is what I've been trained to do. And so, but I'm totally open to your experience of this, is that whenever you're having that feeling of like pain or something like that, is to not step over it, not ignore it, not also give it more energy by building a story around it, but then to tune into it. And a lot of times I'll help people tune into that thing visually, like, so and it will have a color, it will have a texture, it will have like a shape, it'll feel prickly or not, like it'll have like a texture and all these attributes. And as the client describes it, like, then I have them go deeper into it, and we move deeper and deeper into the center of this thing to experience more of it. And so it's actually going through it, into it, not like trying to avoid it. But then when you do that, you're not actually building it. It might be getting bigger momentarily because it's expanding in your awareness, but it's actually unpacking it somehow, and then it dissolves. Do you guys have something similar to that, or do you have a different experience? I'm just curious, because I'm always looking to improve my stuff, how
New
I help
tools for
people.
the toolbox.
Yeah.
Right. On our app, we have a meditation called body awareness, and it's exactly that. We're go right there. And what is it communicate? What is it trying to communicate? What is this pain, this experience, this suffering, whatever? What is it trying to tell you, teach you, And even to a point of gratitude, like, thank you for communicating to me, because our body is always trying to communicate to us, right? And when you really do tune in, you're in the present moment. And gratitude, every cure for anything fear-based, which is stress and suffering, the cure for it is love, right? Mm-hmm. So any derivative of love or virtue of love, like gratitude, interest, curiosity, those instantly becomes the cure that it's actually looking for. The love, usually the love from you. Sometimes, of course, love from others too, but love from you. So yeah.
I won't ask you to go too personal. I'll just leave you the invitation, David. But I know that when I work with clients, like when they're feeling it's like tenseness in their throat, like they'll start talking about something to me and then all of a sudden their throat will get tight, or they'll have like, like they'll feel like gagged or choked, or like, there's a lot of stuff in there. And that's what we'll start exploring. Like, well, what is that? Where does that come from? And usually, for them, it's usually they don't feel like they can speak up to somebody, or there's something going on that they're feeling blocked about communicating. And so I was just curious, because I know that you had yours in your neck, and I wasn't sure if there's anything you wanted to share that would be helpful for anybody that might be going through this.
Sure. Yeah. It was actually started in the tongue. So I knew that I needed to explore why there, why was it showing up there? And so there's a couple of things. One is, I think it's fantastic that we're talking about the body and having a dialogue with the body, because it's so easy. I saw this as a cancer patient, so easy to disassociate from our body, especially when it's going through a heavy medical ordeal, and just stay in the head. And I brought my body to treatment, and I said, okay, you go to treatment every day, and I'll meet you when we're all done, we'll connect again. But
yeah, it's like your body's like, thank you. I mean, I'm doing this for you, right?
But what is huge is that we are recognizing that the body is talking to us, that some of our brain is not all up here, but it's actually some of it's in our abdominal area, that there's a huge amount of neurons there. And there's a huge amount of wisdom and intelligence in our body, and a language that we have to start understanding. So one of the ways that I've been able to do it, and it's a powerful exercise, is it's having a dialogue with the symptom. It's kind of like a spontaneous stream of consciousness journaling of back and forth between a symptom or a pain or some body part that's given us a problem, and asking it questions, and then just writing the responses. And it's amazing the insights that will generate. So powerful thing if someone's going through an illness or a recurrent pain, chronic pain, talk to it, ask it questions.
Yeah, ask it what it's doing. And I think it's really important for people to get regrounded, because any kind of thing like this where we get sent into fear, our body goes into that fight or flight state, and then we just now we're in anxious mode. And most of the population in our Western culture, I think, from my perception, is walking around in fight or flight all the time. They never actually leave that state. They never actually drop back down into a feeling of safety and security and relaxation, and everything's going to be okay. And when we live our lives that way, nonstop, this kind of disease and things can manifest. So especially when somebody's going through something painful like chemo, it's so important for them to get back grounded, even though it's uncomfortable, right? To be back in a state out of that fight or flight. And I think that's what your meditation app is doing for them, actually. You want to talk more about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. Part of our mission is to, having been there, we want to address some of these key points that we know others are going through. And so that could be sort of embracing the treatment as a positive thing. You can argue that chemo is really horrible for you, and that there's way better effective natural ways and whatever. But we make the choice, and that's what we decided is going to be our method of of working on cancer, then let's embrace it and be as positive about it as we can, and look on it like it does work. There are some chemos are better than others, but these treatments do work. And if we're grateful for them, what they actually accomplish, and at the same time respect our body and realize it's going through a pretty tough time, we need to support it. And that's a whole other conversation. But the treatment and the pain and all that is something that we can make it ours rather than outside of us. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but we want to own it, right? We want to own the decision, the choice, and the path that we're taking.
What I'm hearing you say is that once you commit to your path of treatment, to let go of any other aspect of yourself that might be judging it or questioning or doubting it, like it seems like when you choose your path of treatment, and I know from interviewing one of my other friends on the show, and Annie, and she's changed her last name, so I'll put it in the show notes, everybody. But Annie told us about how her commitment to treatment was to imagine that she was traveling, because she loved to travel. And so she committed 100% that her method of treatment of recovery was going to be, I'm imagining I'm traveling, I'm going to do what I love, and I'm going to heal my body that way. And she did. She was able to do it. Your 100% commitment was, this chemo is going to work for me. And so you've got to lose the other voices. Whatever other voices arguing with you inside of you about that choice needs to be integrated, and come along and support your decision.
Right. Or if those voices do come, because they will, come from a place of love and compassion, like, oh yeah, I just had that really fearful thought. Oh, it's okay. Even though I'm scared, I'm doing the best I can, and, kind of come from that compassion, self-compassion place, and then switch back up into that, I'm on the right path. One of the interesting things that we heard from, we have a meditation on our Loving Meditations app called Calm for Chemo. And they were saying that after listening to that meditation several times before their next chemo treatment, they had a much better, much less reaction. They didn't feel so nauseous. It just seemed a lot easier. So it's the mind is just so important when you're going through these things. Again, it's between the difference between the pain and the suffering. It takes out the story, and you're focused more on, this is really helping me. This is not poison going into my body. This is something that's truly helping me. And that can make the world of difference when you're going through it.
Yeah. Cause it's like, if you're sitting there drinking this and saying this is poison going, then you're giving your message, oh, this is, okay. And your body's receiving it that way, right? You don't want to do that to yourself. That's sabotaging your effort to heal. So I love that, can I tell a little story? So years ago, my dad has passed actually in 2017. So, but before, about 4 years before he passed, he got diagnosed with a really rare form of leukemia. And at the time, I had only just begun my energy medicine path. I had begun this path of energy medicine healing, and I'd been training with the Four Winds, and I was studying with a Toltec teacher locally in Austin at the same time. So I was on this big awakening, and I was realizing, wow, everything is all about the energy. It's all about the energy. It's all about quantum physics. It's all about all of this healing, and you can heal anything. You just run mind to it. Dr. Joe Dispenza. I was just yes, this is the answer. And I was very strident in that, because usually when we're first on our path, we get super strident about whatever our opinion is, right? We're out there trying to change everybody in our family. And then my dad tells me he's got this rare form of leukemia. And by the way, it happens to be the same rare form of leukemia that my grandmother passed away with, his mother, not only a couple months before. Wow. And my mind immediately is going, oh, this is this is an inheritance from his mother, and we need to energetically clear it. He needs to let me do an energy healing, and we need to clear this out of his field, and then it'll go away. And all these thoughts are coming to me. And my dad is more traditional. My dad's I'm 70 and I don't really believe in any of that. And I'm from a different space. And I don't really want you to tell me that I'm doing it wrong. And so we had it actually caused a problem in our family. Like, we actually started arguing over it. Like, and one day my mentor here in Austin was helping me, and she said, Carrie, I think we went on this expedition to the mall to go find God. I know it sounds weird.
Where else would he be?
I mean, that sounds weird, but we had to go to the mall because she wanted to prove the point that God is everywhere. Like, because sometimes when you get to be a spiritual person, you think God is only outside and is not in the mall. And so we went to the mall and we posed a question of God. I said, okay, God, source, creator, universe, great spirit, please help me. I need to understand what's going on with my mom. So I wandered around the whole mall. This is a little bit of an extended story, but it has a point. I wandered around the mall. I'm like, wandering. And she said, okay, sit down whenever you feel prompted to sit and just listen. And so I did. I finally said, okay, I need to sit here. I sat and I listened. But nothing was really happening except I was watching all these people walking by, and then I was noticing this one man who seemed really agitated, and I'm like, well, he probably needs some energy medicine because he doesn't seem very happy. And then I kind of went back to my meditation, and then like a little while later, somebody was by, had all these bags and everything, and the girlfriend was being, really, they were having a little argument, and she seemed a little entitled. And I was like, oh, she's kind of entitled. She could probably use some spiritual mentoring. Like, she's having some issues over there. And it took a couple more people walking by before I realized what was going on, is that I was sitting in total judgment of every other person in the mall. And God showed me that in that moment. And I thought, oh, that's what's getting in the way. I'm sitting in judgment over my dad's choice to pursue chemo if it comes to that. And I'm telling him in my mind all the time, he's wrong, don't do that. And I'm in fear over his choice. And it's really his choice. So we hadn't been speaking for a couple of weeks because of this problem. So at the end of that mall thing, I realized I had been wrong. So I actually went over to my parents' house and I just sat and I listened. I didn't say anything, nothing. I just listened with my heart open. And my dad finally stopped and he says, I just noticed something. You haven't said a word. And I said, no, I'm not here to say my opinion. I'm here because I love you and I just want to be supportive. And my dad was like, Carrie, you're a strong leader and you're powerful and you're out there sharing your voice and you have a strong voice and you're a leader. He said, but right here in my life, you need to be a follower.
Wow.
How beautiful.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Yep. But
I realized, like, I was feeling all judged by them, that they were judging my energy medicine path and that they were like judging me and they were calling me crazy or this or that. And I had this big baggage around that. But actually, I realized in that exercise, I had been judging them too. So it goes both ways. I wanted to share that because I know that people are going to be listening to this or share this out to their communities. I think that's a really important message to keep in mind, when your family member is going through this, like, really be mindful of your own judgment and what you think is the right way, and realize you've got to be a follower for the person that's going through it.
It comes into play also because people naturally want to help when they see someone they love is going through that. And, it could show up as they want to bring food, they want to go shopping for you. There's so many different things that people attempt to do out of love and concern and support. And sometimes just being there, kind of like what you described, being there, just being present without doing anything but being is the hugest gift that you can give someone. Or I know it's the hugest gift I received from Tamara and from a few friends who just came and sat with me. And that was exactly what I needed.
Yeah. You're also, your story, Carrie, is reminding me of, I think this was probably one of the biggest awakenings that I had during the cancer journey. And that was, I didn't want to lose David. I mean, he had stage 4 cancer. We didn't know which way it was going to go. I did not want to lose my husband. And I kept focusing on, I don't want to lose him. And that's not going to be good. And, all the judgment that comes around with possibly losing your spouse. And then I realized, wow, I'm in judgment, and I'm not in the present moment. I'm over there. What if, what am I going to do? How does this family keep going? And, all that stuff, right? I was just going down that freight train where my mind was taking me. And then I realized, wow, I'm so not here in the present moment for David. And I'm it's not okay for me to be so focused on whatever the outcome is. And in that moment, it was a big epiphany for me. And in that moment, it was okay. We have a friend, well, you know her too, lovely Christine Powers.
I love her. Yeah, she's awesome.
We've had conversations about making friends with death. And in that moment, I really did make friends with death, and it was okay. It's okay. So because I was able to go there, I really was able to be very present in every moment with David. I was able to be just so tuned into what my needs were, whether it meant taking 15 minutes to go meditate, or even do some yoga poses or whatever, or just be super present with David and very tuned into what his needs were. By the way, we didn't mention that our son was also diagnosed with Lyme disease at exactly the same time.
How much more can you people go through at once? Spiritual masters, like, here you go. You get the mastery path.
Yeah, when it rains, it pours, right? And so I was also, very tuned into our son, who was really going through his stuff too. So yeah, it was, as it turned out, a very beautiful experience. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It's a perfect experience for me.
I want to pull out one of the pieces that you said, because as a student of indigenous wisdom, one of the things I learned from the shamans is, in the work that I do with clients, is to be really careful about what I spot as a future destiny for someone I'm working with. And this message was echoed in a broadcast I did, an interview I did with Shaman Durek. And Shaman Durek came on the show more close to the beginning, you guys. So y'all can, whoever listening, you guys can go look it up. It's kind of near the beginning, but it's on the website, Shaman Durek. And he told the story about how in indigenous cultures, whenever, the shaman usually lives outside the village. They live kind of a little bit away. And when somebody gets ill in the village, the shaman takes that person and separates them from the rest of the tribe. Like, they're like, okay, you need to come over here and you need to be separate for a little bit. And then relatives and people will come and they'll want to see the person. And the way that you get in is not by coming up to the door and saying, oh, I'm so sad for my person. They're going to not make it. I'm so scared. And they're going to lose them. And the shaman's like, you can go now. Go back. We're not letting you in here. The people that come and they say, I want to let my person know that I believe in them. I see the light in them. I know they're healthy. I know they're strong. I know they're vibrant. I see them in health. I see them in vitality. Like, those are the people that get let in to the room with the person who's healing. So I want to just reiterate that is like a really powerful thing that you just said. And you just sort of said it off the cuff. And it's like, no, that's important. That's a really important thing to really elaborate on. And how did you feel, David, when she finally made that decision and she just said, you know what, I'm here for you no matter what you're going through, and I'm present with you?
There is nothing more powerful than that, in terms of, in that moment of need and feeling somewhat powerless, to have someone who's there, so present, so supportive, and love. You can't, it's a cliche, the healing power of love, but I can say that I've actually experienced the miracle of it. And I'll never know exactly what part it played, but it was, it was huge, a huge part of the experience. And also, for us together as a married couple to go through that, and to, I've never, had never experienced that depth of love from Tamara before in our relationship. So it took us to a completely new place that, it was just beyond an amazing gift.
Oh gosh, I'm like basking in that right now. People, like, bask in that. Love, look at the two of us.
Like a Hallmark moment here.
I know. It's like so beautiful. It's so precious. I love it. Oh gosh. Well, so that right there is such proof that when we go through these big challenges, the Great Spirit has got us like right in the bosom of love. Like this is all for us to grow, to learn more, how to love deeper. You might not have ever got to that space of like such a deep, profound love if it hadn't been for this challenge of your faith. And I really, although we never want to wish something like this on somebody, you know, if anybody out there is going through this, I really hope that this inspired you with a whole new perspective. So tell me a little bit more, because we're going to wrap up pretty soon, but tell us a little bit more about your product that you offer and like the successes that it's had, and how it's really serving, because this is your mission work, your power, your purpose path that got unfolded through this challenge. And so I know it's been really successful. So just give a couple highlights about it.
Sure. We have a couple of things that we do. One is our Loving Meditations app, and that's it's really meditation experiences where they're not all cancer related, but some of them are, and some of them could be for anybody going through any kind of life challenge or stress. And so the app had phenomenal success. We're in about 40 countries around the world. We started collaborating with some amazing people who are contributing their voice and their experience, and we're started to do it also in Spanish. So we're reaching more people that don't typically have access to mindfulness and meditation. And so we're in hospitals, and we're in functional medicine doctors and integrative oncology with that. And our book is called Live Calm with Cancer and Beyond. And that kind of talks about our story, and at the same time shares tools that we used that helped us get through it with more ease.
That is gorgeous. Gorgeous. And I know that you've been in hospital rooms, right? Like I remember something about how there was some results, like people were saying like, oh, it's so much better. I felt calmer going into the hospital. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we were part of a little in hospital study for women who were getting diagnosed with, or they were trying to figure out if they had breast cancer or not, right? So they would have them listen to our meditations while they were waiting for different tests or like a biopsy or something like that. And they found them to be extremely calm when they would go through the procedure, and they had faster recovery time, and that if they were diagnosed with cancer, then they had a easier time of it. So it was really cool to be part of that. And the other thing is that we have something, we spend a lot of times in waiting rooms, in hospitals for tests and doctors and that sort of thing. We have this environmental relaxing TV. We call it Loving Meditations TV. And our clients have told us that their patients or their patients and family actually show up early so they can have their own little meditation time, chill out time before they actually visit with the doctor, have their test. And so that was really cool to hear that too, that they purposely showed up early just to be in a good space.
That is awesome. Yeah, because not every hospital has. Sometimes even in the lobby they have the TV on, like to the news, and like I'm a sensitive, so I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch that. Like to get that out of my space. Anyway, but not everybody's clued into that yet. But as we get more sensitive, maybe more people will notice it. So I think this is a really good tool. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate you sharing your story so vulnerably, and giving your wisdom and sharing your personal, private, journey with cancer. Is just, thank you so much. I really honor you. I'm so glad to be connected with you, and I thank you. And I like to go out of these sessions by giving kisses to everybody. So you guys are welcome to join me. I mean, here they come. So everybody, here they come. We love you. We'll see you next time. Yay! And I will give you, I will give everybody those access to the website in the show notes. You can click over and find it. You can find the Loving Meditations app on your iPhone or anywhere else that you find. Download the apps and be sure to get that. And also be sure to leave a review for this this episode. You know, if you or to share it out with anybody you know who's going through cancer, so they can get this wisdom from Tamara and David. Please share it out. You know, share it out. Leave a comment. If you do leave a comment, I will find it because they email me when you leave a comment, so it won't go lost. I'll know and I'll direct the question to Tamara and David. So no worries. Please leave a comment. All right, guys. Okay, we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.